All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Lenny Gray on the show. And Lenny is the CEO of Door Millionaire. Welcome to the show, Lenny.
Thanks for having me, Patrick. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
You bet, man. Awesome. So a little bit about Lenny. He's been married to his best friend for over 25 years, and they have 5 wonderful children. Lenny is a door-to-door legend and author of 2 books called, the first one's called Door Millionaire, Secrets of Making the Sale and More. Door Millionaire Next Level Training. Lenny burst onto the scene as a door-to-door salesperson in 1998 and was the top rookie sales rep for all of Orkin Pest Control nationwide. During his career, Lenny has trained hundreds of sales reps on the doors and has helped business owners build successful direct sales programs for their companies, employing door-to-door, B2B, B2C sales strategies. Lenny owns multiple businesses in home service, vacation rental, land development, and consulting industries. So not only is he teaching and helping other companies get a door-to-door sales system and process going, but he actually lives it with his own company. So again, Lenny, great to have you. Before we dive into your journey and door-to-door millionaire, what's one interesting fact that not many people know about you, man?
So I would say that I never missed a day of school in my life. So from kindergarten all the way till I graduated through college, my undergrad, never missed a class, never missed a day. I was always there. I was late once in the 4th grade because of a snowstorm, but other than that, I was that nerd who was there every day.
From kindergarten all the way to graduating, you were never absent, not even like for sickness?
No, it was strange. Like I rarely, even to date, I rarely get sick. If I do get sick, it was weird in growing up in school, like I'd get really sick in the summer, strangely enough. But yeah, during the winter, I stayed relatively healthy. I remember having a couple really bad headaches. They probably could be defined as migraines maybe back in the day, but I stuck it out, and yeah, I went to school every day.
Did you get COVID?
Yeah, but
Oh, you did. Okay.
I graduated school a few days ago.
But yeah, but no, I'm just curious if you're like impenetrable or something. Do you have some kind of the magic gene, like, or what's your secret? Do you drink a glass of orange juice every day? Like, how did you not get sick all of school? That's crazy.
I know, it is crazy.
Chicken pox, whatever.
Relatively healthy person. Yeah, drink a lot of water and try to eat a balanced diet. And yeah, don't drink, don't smoke, drugs, none of that. So maybe that's the secret. I don't know.
I mean, I'm healthy too, but dude, 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, that's a lot of freaking grades. That's a lot of days where you never got sick enough to not to go to school. That's awesome.
Maybe part of genetics play into that.
I guess so, man. Who knows? Yeah. Your parents
Relatively
did something
guy.
right. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's a really cool, interesting fact. That's probably one of the coolest I've heard so far. Well, cool, man. So tell us more about Door Millionaire. Tell us about your company.
Yeah, so what I did is I found a niche of business owners that really like the idea of getting into direct sales. We all do the SEO and we do the traditional advertising, billboards, TV, radio, everything else. But direct marketing, it's a different beast and a different animal. And that's how I got my start in the industry. I started my companies that were built really on the backs of direct sales reps, door-to-door sales reps. So I just felt like there's a lot of uncertainty and unknown about how to do it, and even just how to do it right, because there's a lot of companies out there that they don't teach ethical practices and don't do it the right way. But I feel like what I created was something that any business owner could use, whether it's B2B, D2D, whatever it is. They could use my systems and processes that I've really developed over 25 years and not have to go through all the pains of figuring it out like I did, initially when we started.
So do you train companies that have sales reps, or do you provide sales reps that are trained by your company, or both?
Great question. So yeah, what I do is my specialty is in training reps that are hired. So I'm not a recruiting company. I don't do the recruiting. In fact, as far as direct sales go, I basically teach my clients how to recruit. We've done that before, but it's like I tell my clients, I say, you hire the willing and I will make them able. So there's so much time and effort and energy that goes into hiring, right? And we want to make sure we're spending the right amount of money on the right person and investing that time. I really want to make sure that if you've found that right person, if they're not successful, if they're not trained well, if they don't see success early, all that hiring and that effort you put into recruiting that person, it's gone. And so really where I play the biggest role for my clients is to come in and make sure that the willing become able, so that they can go out and see success and have success early, which helps obviously with retention.
On the finding, you mentioned that you help people find sales reps at one point, or at least train them on how to find sales reps, but it's not your specialty. So I won't expect a ton on it, but any advice for somebody who's looking to hire their first sales reps? Because what I've encountered is most CEOs, they have no idea what to look for to determine, because usually they're hiring techs, or they're hiring this person over here, admin. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think you have to figure out what your demographic is first, and find out where those people hang out, where they spend most of their time. Is it on social media? Is it at a university or a college? Really, what are you looking for in that demographic? And for me, it's been all over the board. We have those that high school kids, juniors, seniors, new college kids, age kids. That's a good demographic for a lot of things in direct sales, not for everything. When you start going B2B, you want to look for people that have maybe a little experience in sales under their belt, and maybe they're mid-20s or so plus. Maybe you get some people that when you're dealing with more of a professional service, you need people even more experienced and maybe a little bit older than that. So I think the first thing CEOs need to figure out is who is their ideal or their avatar, like who's their ideal sales rep. What does that look like, and what does that person where does that person hang out, and who does that person associate with, and let's figure that piece out, and then we can start to put the wheels on. Well, this is how you find those people, and how you recruit those people, ultimately interview and hire those people, and then turn them over to me.
Awesome. So walk us through some of your high level thoughts on how you take someone who's willing and turn them into the able.
Yeah, and I don't have a one size fits all. That's the great
Sure.
thing. It really
Yeah.
depends on my client, right? Like I have some things on my website, lennygray.com. You can go into, there's some online training courses. Obviously, my books are a great place to start for direct sales.
Yeah.
I highly recommend those. So we can go from as inexpensive as free, my YouTube channel, my D2D Millionaire YouTube
Okay.
channel. We got hundreds of free videos on that. Or we could go, well, buy a book. If you want to invest 15 to 20 bucks, you buy a book. If you want to get higher level, and I do personal coaching for a lot of my clients, whether that's on a weekly, a monthly, a annual basis, whatever it is. And then on a more higher level, I actually do 2-day training camps for my clients, whether that's virtual or in person. I have a lot of clients that will fly me out to their location. I'll spend 2 or 3 days, or I'll spend 2 days in the classroom with their group, do a lot of role playing and practicing and going over different concepts to do with sales. And then, a third day, an optional day that we have, is I actually get out on the doors or out in the field with those sales reps. That's still something I've been doing for 25 years. It's not something I just teach about, but I'm actually doing it regularly. Not just with my own company, but certainly my clients as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you have a wealth of different ways that people could, learn on their own, free YouTube, get some books, and it sounds like you have some methodologies in there. And then you actually offer a 2-day course. And that's their on-site, their location?
Yeah, it can be either. So I do some virtually and I do some on site.
Okay.
Like I was doing a virtual one for a company in Florida a couple of weeks ago. I'm heading out to North Carolina to do one in person in another couple of weeks. So it really just depends on the client and how many reps they have and really what they're looking for. It works virtually, which is great. We've all learned that past COVID, right? That we can do virtual meetings and they work really well. But there is something about being in person, also that helps companies, and I can interact with those reps at a different on a different scale.
Yeah, and that third day that you talked about, to go out there in the field with them, I feel like that's just absolutely invaluable. If I had a company and I was looking to go after my door to door, like I would go for the in-person option and get you for that day, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Because if I'm the CEO, right, looking to hire you, I don't know what you know. It's one thing to teach it in a classroom, but actually practicing it, whole nother day, and reinforcing what you've taught, whole nother thing.
Yeah. In fact, I had a client last year who, wanted to do the 2-day course. They had come from one industry and were looking to get into a different industry.
Right,
And I said, this is kind of what I do, and this is the offer. And
right.
they said, we'll just schedule you for a couple hours and we'll just ask you a bunch of questions. We'll figure it out, no problem. And I said, okay, that's your prerogative, whatever you want to do. I'd be happy to, do a course for you. And sure enough, the 1 week into May, they call up and they're like, we're gonna have to shut our doors. Like, we can't, our reps cannot sell this new product and service on the doors. And so what's it going to take to get you, to fly out here for 2 days and actually go on the doors with our reps? And it took a lot, I'll say, because they waited. But they went ahead and hired me to do that. And I spent 2 days up in Canada, 1 day up in Calgary and another day in Vancouver, and just crushed it and saved that. I mean, that company, they'll tell you to this day, I think I've got a quote on my website from that company. They'll say, I saved their company. I showed their reps how to do it, and they created a bunch of mini Lennys, as they said, and now they're killing
mini
it.
Lenny's walking around. Yeah,
Yeah,
millionaire.
exactly.
So what are some of the, like, your top things that when you're training the sales reps, what are some of the top things or that you really dive into and what's like really your focus when you work with them?
So it's a combination of things, right? It's not just what you say, but how you say it, and working smart, and all those little tricks of the trade that I learned from the tens of thousands of hours that I personally spent knocking doors. So yeah, I mean, I dive into the minutia. I mean, my books cover a lot of it, but I can even go deeper. There's so many layers to that onion where you can really dial down. I mean, I'll give you one example, Patrick. So when somebody opens the door and what's your initial, pitch, or what are you going to say? Well, most reps are wired, for whatever reason, I think, as human beings, when you meet somebody for the first time or you see somebody, you say, hey, how's it going? Right. And I'm like, that's the last thing you want to say as a door-to-door sales rep, is ask a question, because you've given control of the conversation over to that person.
Okay. So what should they say?
Yeah, so instead they should just do an intro. So I have a 30 to 45-second intro that I teach, but it should start with, hey there, my name is Lenny, I'm with whatever. So you don't ask that question and turn control of the conversation, but you just go 30 to 45 seconds in almost a run-on sentence where there's 5 different aspects of an effective initial approach that I teach to really help people just get their pitch out and start a conversation with somebody before trying to, turn the conversation over to them or try to sell them right off the bat either. That's a total wrong approach as well.
Yeah. So you believe in, is it safe to say you believe in scripting for especially for new sales reps?
Yeah. So this is the hardest thing, Patrick, for me in teaching this is I've got to teach steps, right? You have to teach a process, because you can't just say whatever comes to your mind and be natural. But I have to teach these steps and then train reps how to go through these steps as though it's the first time that they're saying it to somebody, and then it's customized and it's personalized. So that's the interesting thing. So I teach these 5 steps, but I also teach they don't need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go 4 to 1 to 3 to 2 to 5. You can mix them up, but all 5 elements have to be in an initial approach for it to be effective. It doesn't necessarily have to come in a specific order.
Gotcha. So are you working with like the sales reps in the company on developing, when you say these steps and the scripting and all that, are you working with them on developing things like the needs, the desires, benefits, teaching them how to, is that part of the process too?
Sure. So it kind of, if you look at it as, the tree trunk of this, and the meat of this is you have your initial approach, it's the first 30 to 45 seconds. And then you're trying to qualify somebody. So we're looking for who is
they even need what I have,
who's not. You've got to find out, because you can waste your time, a lot of time talking to somebody that's not qualified. So we talk about what the qualifiers are. Then once you qualify somebody, you have to learn how to build value. I think that's what you're talking about, the value building process of making sure they understand how valuable what you're selling is. Then you're going to be closing. We talk about the language of closing. You're going to be overcoming concerns, the top concerns that are going to come your way on the doors. And then you're going to be, of course, learning how to close some more. You always want to
upsell or whatever.
Yeah.
What a company, let's say it's a company who is not currently doing door-to-door sales. Let's say I'm an HVAC company. And obviously I'm residential. Have you worked with HVAC companies before, I assume, yeah, probably
almost
awesome.
any home service. There's
Any home service can
there's a
benefit
way
from
to
this.
do this. Yeah, 100%.
So let's say I have two guys that I want to hire. I have a budget for two guys, you know. Do you recommend do you put them on like a salary? Do you put them on some kind of a salary plus commission only? And then I'm curious, you know, what kind of return on investment could someone look at? Let's just say you're in a standard city, 250, 300,000 people. I hire two reps to go out there. I put them through your program. What kind of a return? And I'm not going to, nobody of my listeners, please don't hold Lenny, you know, to any of this. There's no guarantees or any of that bullshit, but like, well, what could someone be looking at by an investment like that?
Yeah, let's talk about your first part of that question. So as far as what this looks like, it can really depend on who you're hiring. So we look at it as like,
of course,
the sprint version versus the marathon version, you know, where you have maybe those guys that come in and are summer sales reps. They're the younger demographic. They're in between college semesters or school years, and they're going to come in and they are going to be the sprinters. They're going to go full out 3 to 4 months. You're probably going to want to top them out at a high commission, and that's it. And you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Everything's going to be paid based on, you know, the agreements that the clients sign, or the money that the clients pay for the service. So that would be one piece of that would be, 100% you just go all in on commissions on somebody that's a sprinter. Somebody that's more in the marathon, that's more in the long game, that's, probably a little bit more seasoned, has a little bit of experience under their belt. They're looking for a year-round type of employment. Then you're probably going to want a healthy mix of some guarantees, some salary plus those commissions. And then, you benchmark certain things where they hit certain levels or certain amounts of revenue, whether it's a monthly, a semi-annual or an annual type of, bonuses that are mixed in there. You got to have a really solid incentive plan to keep not just the full salary or the full commission guys, but also the full salary or the part salary, part commissions as well. So you want to have an incentive structure in there. So how I look at it, so my background is in pest control. I own several pest control companies throughout the US. That's what I started at with Orkin Pest Control, of course. So I look at each summer sales rep. I have a dollar amount. Now, again, keep in mind that in pest control, and you'll have to convert this to your own industry, but in pest control, an average 1-year service agreement is probably around $500 to $600, somewhere in that range.
Sure.
So I look at it and say, if I have a 4-month sprinter that I'm just hiring as a summer sales rep, I want them at minimum to generate $50,000 of revenue for my company. So if I hire 10 of them, you can do the math. That's how much, 10 of those $50,000 reps are gonna be for me. If I hire 100 of them, times it by 50,000, that's what I can kind of bank on. So again, it's going to vary from industry to industry. If we're talking HVAC, well, we're not really signing up service agreements so much unless you have some maintenance agreements. But maybe you're looking at just the average, the average ticket cost, that's going to cost that consumer. And then we can start to dial in, well, a rep, based on this is going to sell about this many a day or a week. And then you start to do those numbers and look what that revenue can bring in on an annual basis for a certain industry.
Yeah. So did you say for pest control, for a 4-month sprint, did you say that rep would bring in 50,000 per year in business? Did I get that right?
That's a minimum. Yeah, that's a minimum. Now wow. there are reps that can do well beyond that. I'll give you one instance of just my own personal experience. So when we started my pest control company, I wanted to be the only sales rep, and my business partner was the only guy spraying. So I was selling, he was spraying. I did about $500,000 in business in about 4.5 months. But that's me, right? So I look at it and I go, okay, most new reps, it's probably around 50K. That's new reps. Experienced reps, you can look to look maybe about 75 to 100, just depending on the rep and their experience.
And then, so how much, let's say you pay you're getting $50,000 in business. How much would that rep cost you just approximately over 4 months?
So the scary thing about pest control right now, and in a lot, in alarms and solar, is it is a sales rep's world. It's almost funny when I go back and I'll tell people what I made in the late 90s, where I was making 10 to 12% commissions, and I felt like I was the king of the world. Nowadays, reps are making anywhere from, probably on the low end, 30 to 40%, on the high end, probably 60, 70% of contract value. So it's crazy that in the pest control world, you might be 13, 14, 15 months in to having that client to where you actually start to go into the black and you get out of the red there. So that's why I always encourage and I try to teach my clients, don't go sub out for a door-to-door or a direct sales team. Don't do that, because they're actually, I've heard some this year and last year that are charging almost upwards of 90% of contract value. It's not worth it. You don't have quality control in the type of reps that you're hiring. You don't know what kind of impression they're going to give people. You have very little, if anything, to do with the training of those reps. So that's why I'd rather people keep it in-house, do it themselves, get a coach that knows how to teach you how to do it yourself, and you get the right people representing your company the right way, or it can be a complete disaster.
Got it. That's great advice, man. Awesome. So, what other any other tips from the standpoint of a CEO looking at bringing on a sales team? Any other thoughts that we haven't covered so far?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, probably the easiest thing, because every business and every CEO and their strategy, everybody's a little bit different. So what I've set up is on my website, you can book a call with me. It's a free 15-minute consultation. And I will tell business owners, I've told business owners, I've flat out told them it's not going to work for your company and what you're trying to do and what you want to pay. If a direct sales campaign is not going to work for your business, I will tell you. We'll save us all a lot of time and headache and effort. But if it is going to work, then we'll talk through that as well. So I offer that on my website. Again, lennygray.com. It's really easy. Schedule a call. I mean, let's see specifically if and where we can help you get to where you want to go. Very cool.
Let me ask you, man. So if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book that you would require they read before taking over for you?
For sure, the E-Myth Revisited, and that might be a popular one that you hear.
Michael Gerber.
That's one of my annual books, and I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of books, and I make sure I make time to read that at least annually.
Cool.
It's great.
Fantastic. So what's your main takeaway from that book?
So I'm a processes guy, and I like things in order and to teach them. I mean, that's how I teach, door-to-door sales and direct sales. I have an order and a process of things. And what I love about it is there's really just in that book, there is some books are niched into certain, parts of, it's a sales book. Like my books, they're sales books. I'm not going to teach about accounting and marketing.
No, you're staying in your lane.
Specifically designed for sales. I think the E-Myth, it just takes a business owner from start to finish on all aspects of their business and how that should be run and how to maximize every aspect of your business. I mean, there's a few other ones that are very close to that one that do the same thing. I'll slip one in, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. That's another great,
fantastic book.
So you're familiar with that one, but there's some like that just kind of take you start to finish through different processes. And the E-Myth Revisited Michael Gerber is something else. I would highly recommend.
Awesome, man. Let me take a few minutes and kind of summarize some things that, for you, one of the things biggest concepts that I would think personally got out of this is I hadn't really thought about door-to-door sales reps as a strategy for home service-based business. We think of salespeople and making phone calls and all that stuff, but when it comes to door-to-door sales, it's not something that typically jumps out as one of the first things we do. And there's some real return on investment for 4 months of having a door-to-door salesperson properly trained and doing the right things. They can bring in $50,000 per year in 4 months. And one of the biggest things it sounds like is you really don't want to just go out or try to avoid subcontracting your sales teams out. It can be a disaster. You don't have control of it. They could be charging way too much money. So the right thing is to get a proven system, get a process, get a coach, call up Lenny Gray, do a free call, and just see how he can help you expand on your door-to-door sales. Fantastic. So let me ask you, if there was one takeaway, Lenny, that you would really want the audience to absorb from today, what would that be?
And I think, Patrick, your analysis there was spot on, by the way. And I really feel like there's a lot of unknown about door-to-door. And everybody has a theory, or they had a cousin or an uncle that hired and they got burned. And the guys just lie, cheat, and steal. And again, it doesn't have to be like that. There's good people in the industry that are doing it the right way. There's good companies that are doing it the right way, teaching it the right way. And really, it's not as scary and as big, bad, and hairy monster as maybe you think it is. A lot of it is just it's being educated on what and how door to door works. And it doesn't need to be, the other thing about it too, Patrick, is it doesn't need to be, I know a lot of people say, well, it's got to be these guys that have served missions for their churches and have gone out and knocked doors, and those are the only guys that can be successful at that. That's false.
Mormons or whatever.
Yeah. So that's not true. I mean, I served a 2-year mission, so I get it. And that's where I get my start. And that's all great. But some of the best teams that I've hired for my own companies have had zero experience knocking doors, not, members of a certain church or, did missions or anything. And they've been super successful. It's because they're trained the right way. So I think less, trying to read between the lines of, well, this didn't work, or maybe this works, or this is a risk, or it's just find out from a source that has 25 plus years in this industry, find out for just let's set up a call, and I will tell you if I don't think it's gonna work for you. Again, it's a pretty easy tell once I kind of get to know you and your goals and what you want to accomplish, what your end strategy is. There's a great opportunity in direct sales, but it's certainly not for everybody. And I just think just finding out if it is or isn't for you, there's really no risk in doing that. And I think that's probably the hopefully the takeaway that CEOs that are listening to this understand.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that takeaway. So I'm going to have your LinkedIn profile on our podcast page. But how could our listeners reach out to you if they wanted to take advantage of that offer? What's your website again?
So lennygray.com is my website. Email Lenny at d2dmillionaire.com. I'm all over social, or D2D Millionaires all over social, whether it's Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all sorts of things. I'm pretty easy to find if you Google my name, and you'll find me somewhere.
And is home services the companies that would really benefit the most? Is there any other industries that should look into door-to-door sales?
Oh yeah, great question. So yeah, I have consulted for some of my clients run insurance, finance.
Sure.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Almost anything that has a sales aspect. It could be in software, software sales.
Okay.
Sales. It's really, most any company is going to need that sales arm, and that sales force. And so I write about this in my book, but I look at door-to-door sales as the armpit of all sales. It's what I do. And then I live in the armpit. I'm okay to say that. I have no guile.
Kirby vacuum.
But yeah, it is what it is. That's what I've learned. And I really feel like if somebody can do door-to-door sales, or if a company can figure out door-to-door sales as a piece of what they do, it's not a standalone. It's like when you have a chair, right? You want 4 legs on the chair to be sturdy. I think door-to-door is a great leg to the chair. But if a company can figure out how to do that, I think that gains them so much more advantage over their competition, who maybe are a little scared or hesitant or don't have the right education on how to make door-to-door work for them.
Well, it makes sense to be diversified too, right? You never know when one of your lead sources could dry up. Google could totally change. You could be at, number 1 ranking for SEO in the maps, and then all of a sudden overnight they change some kind of algorithm, and boom, you're done. So, having at least, I always like to say minimum of 3 solid lead sources bringing your company leads every month.
No, it's great advice. So I think door-to-door could and should be for almost any business out there. I think door-to-door should be that. Again, it's the armpit. It's not, there's nothing glamorous about it or sexy about, door-to-door sales. It is a grind, and it is very difficult. But if you've got the right people hired and they're successful at it, it's almost like you can just count on it. You like I said, we've got it dialed into where we know about what we're going to make per first year rep.
Yeah.
So
well, let me ask this: just real quick before we wrap up, what about like B2B versus just a direct to consumer?
Yeah, so that it's virtually the same type of processes and approaches. So that's one of the companies that I was kind of first in line for, in this finance company. It's a no credit check finance company. I think they're valued at over $2 billion today. And I was one of the first few people in the room. I wrote all their sales manuals and get their SOPs together, and they're using my processes to date, and their sales reps kill it. And it's all B2B stuff. So
Cool.
again, if you have the right process, and again, to me, it's got to be ethical. Like, that's a huge part of who and what I am. It's got to be
Right.
upstanding, and it's
Right.
got to be done the right way, and it'll hold true. I mean, this company's been in existence for over a decade now, and they're just killing it. And it's like, you know what? They do it the right way, and it's withstood the test of time.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So it's lennygray.com. Again, Lenny, thanks for being on the show. This was absolutely fantastic, man.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick, for having me. I enjoyed it. Hopefully, there's some good nuggets and some good takeaways for the listeners.
Yeah, you bet. So for the audience, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing here on the show. We're helping the next generation of leaders and CEOs be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.